Okay. Now, a question came up. Are we advocating or are we being a friendly critic when we travel? If we could have everyone's attention over here. Are we advocating or are we being a critical friend? The advocates are the people staying behind. You're going to advocate for the plan that you described. The note taker is going to just help you capture. And if you don't have enough team members to have a note taker, raise your hand and we will send you one. No, yeah, you have. No, you have. Oh, you're the note taker. Okay, great. So if so the way it's going to work is pull out your packets. We've got a specific worksheet for you to use. So if you go in your packets and turn, it's near the end. Someone from the lab team, what page is that? Is that on? 11. Page 11. It's got 6 spots for the design criteria. So you're good. This is where the design criteria come in really handy. And you can use this at home. Is that you use those to really pressure test the right priorities and whether you can see the strategies and the plan coming through against the design criteria that we all said are the most important. So the first thing you might want to do if you don't have is to make sure you write in the 6 design criteria, the top 4. We have 2 other slots, so you might even put the top 6 design criteria. Do you need me to call out what they are? Everybody should just write them down. Ben, maybe you could head over and call them out again in case people, so get your worksheets ready before you travel.
The original 6 from over here?
Yeah. Yeah, so number 1 was sustainable. So if you just put sustainable in the number 1 position, you can just write these down in a pen. Does everybody have the worksheet that we're talking about? Because you're going to travel individually, so you can't rely on another team member to, yeah, just write down, we're writing down what they are just so you can travel. This will be the page on which you'll take notes and do your evaluation.
Kathleen, they have the page previously that they checked.
Oh, you want to shoot? Oh, yeah, you also have a page that you checked. I was just trying to make it easy by let's all write them down.
Yeah, because it has all of them and it has the definitions here, so they don't have to rewrite them.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you guys want to use the handout number 9 with the design criteria list, this might actually be easier instead of writing them all down. There's a column that you can write the rankings in if you didn't already do that. So on the right-hand side, it has all of them, and then a column on the right. And I'm going to read them. So number 1 is sustainable. Number 2, career aligned. Number 3, data driven. Number 4, measurable. And then tied for 5, integrated and early exposure. Does anybody need me to repeat that? Yeah. Okay. 1, sustainable. 2 is career aligned. 3 is data driven. 4 is measurable. And tied for number 5, integrated and early exposure.
Okay, now we're going to get ready to travel. And one word for the advocate. You're going to have a few minutes to talk about your plan, but don't spend more than 4 or 5 minutes talking about your plan, because then you won't have time for feedback. You're going to have 6 or 7 or 5 or 6 people. What you all should be doing is checking the boxes, and if you have time, and we'll see how fast this goes. But the discussion that follows the advocate talking about their plan is for everybody else to say which design criteria you think you satisfied and which you aren't. You might even want to do a vote. I don't know if that would be helpful for you. If that's not helpful, let the advocate say what kind of feedback you'd like. But we really think that these design criteria are helpful to focus the discussion and to focus, it gives you a critical friend tool, right, to give friendly feedback. You don't meet the That's not sustainable, or that's really good on early exposure, but that's like the only design criteria that I see it fitting. Does that make sense? Does everybody get that? Okay, it's going to be a little bit like pandemonium. So we're going to use the chimes because we're going to have lots of talking, and we're going to need people to, we'll do 5 minutes for the advocate to talk, and then 10 minutes for discussion, and then you're going to move to another table. We'll probably have time for 2 rounds. Okay, so here's the way we're going to do it. We're going to do it more like musical chairs. Sometimes we do this where people move around the room, but there's such different shaped and different sized teams that we decided that we should probably just do it where look for an empty chair, and if the table's full, pick a different table. Just obviously don't go to a table you've been to, and don't go to your own table. Does that make sense? Any questions? Okay, let's get situated, and then we'll ring the bell for the start. But so everybody get up now and move. Bring your criteria sheet with you. Leave the plan with the advocate and the note taker. This part's going to their travel teams. Okay, we need to move quickly, otherwise we're using up our great critical friend time thinking about where we want to sit. So we're starting. Table 10 needs some visitors. Can you guys come to table 10? Table 10 needs some visitors. Yeah, needs some travel team. Yeah, this table's so big, you want to try to get together. Table over there looks like they need some people. Oh, now everyone's they left so late. Table 18 needs a few people. Here you go. Try to sit over here. This table needs a few. They need a couple. This table could use some visitors here. Are you a traveler? Okay. Well, you can be a critical friend, but I would come sit closer to them. Table, what's your table? Can you go to this? Can you come to this table? Okay, the 5 minutes is up for presentations. If you haven't switched over to getting advice, you should move to that point quickly.
Got me in video and I'm taking pictures.
So this alert, does it notify you if you're on the path to academic probation or unless you're on that? Right. No, I get you. So technically, the advisor would be the one who changes the line from green, yellow to red.
Okay, 2 more minutes for this round. 2 more minutes. Okay, let's wrap up the advice. Let's wrap up the advice.
So we need to put yes, no, or maybe for what we just heard.
Yes,
If we're traveling.
yeah, if you're traveling, can we have your attention? Can we have your attention? Okay, did you get through the design criteria? Did you get through that discussion? No. Yes. Oh, okay. Yes, you got through the design criteria? Yes. Let me ask for a spokesman if we could have quiet. One advocate. Was it helpful to? Let's have quiet. Name one piece of advice that you got that was related to you are or you're not adhering to the design criteria. Does someone have an example of? We've got mics out here. Can someone give an example of something they picked up? We're trying to learn about using design criteria to help guide our prototyping and iteration of our prototyping. Is there a comment? Does anybody have a suggestion? Yep.
The question that was asked is how are you designing?
Let's have quiet over here.
How are you designing the freshman year? What are the things that we're packaging into it? And that gives us a chance of really reviewing as to how well we're organizing to package the career piece with literature, with reading, with all of the basics.
So was that about early exposure? Which of the design criteria, is that early exposure? Was that career alignment? Career alignment, right, okay. Is there another, let's hear from a traveler, something that you picked up that you want to take back to your team. Yes, wait for a mic.
Hello.
Me?
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't know that you were on.
We, this is University of West Alabama, and they are using faculty advocates. One of the things that I picked up from this group is they are giving those faculty advocates laptops for their service in advocacy.
Huh, interesting. That sounds like both incentive and engagement and PD all rolled into one, right? Excellent. I'm stealing that.
Okay, so I'm Sherry Painter from Lemoyne-Owen in Memphis, Tennessee, and I'm at Houston Tilson's project, but a comment came from Dillard, so it's kind of a real collaborative effort. But one of the levers was professional development on this project, and one of the things that came out was that how can we measure that, right? Or can you measure that? And so I don't know your name from Dillard. Nia from Dillard said, are you listing out some maybe competencies? We do it for our students. We give our students competencies. When you take this class, here are the competencies, or when you graduate, here are the core competencies. But maybe for professional development, a list of competencies needs to be developed, like around advising or mentoring or curriculum redesign, or so when you're taking these professional development workshops or things like that, you can kind of have some sort of measurability on that kind of thing.
That's interesting. So creating assessments and really distinct competencies around your professional development piece is the same way you're trying to do for your students around career alignment. How do you do that for professional development? That's interesting. We've got a comment here. Oh,
I'm Priscilla Evans Morris from Fisk
could
University.
you speak up a bit?
I'm Priscilla Evans Morris from Fisk University, and I learned at Lemoyne-Owen. One of the task forces that they have is to redesign student employment. And what they're going to do is to overhaul work study and make it more of a first job experience. And so she didn't give us all the details, but I'm imagining that they would stress things like coming in on time and performance behavior and all of that kind of thing. And I think that was very interesting because I know many times students on work study, they don't treat it like work. They treat it like, I don't know what they treat it like.
Has anyone experimented with using work study for credit or for partial credit even around some of these career-aligned skills. Has anyone experimented with that? Wait, one sec. This sounds like a great idea. One sec. Wait for the...
We have about 700 jobs. So from the very start, when we looked at our most disadvantaged students, the ones who were not making it through financially, there were challenges. And so these were often students who were eligible for Pell. So we looked at that profile. We saw also the work-study connection. And we also have institutional jobs. So total about 700 jobs on an 1,800 student campus. So we said this is a significant group. And so we have put it as a part of our, just like internships and off-campus jobs. So the supervisors have to go, we have a supervisor's toolkit. They have to be trained to the competencies, the work competencies that external employers are also looking for, and they have to hold the students to those expectations. So that's part of our rollout for August.
That's really exciting, because that's really integrating the work study into the learning to formalize the
And
informal.
we actually track it. So we are tracking both their attendance at work and all, just like more intense than an internship would, because of course they're our employees. So they get the opportunity for a more intense training. We also found that most of our students who are Pell eligible are also first generation students. So we're able to address a number of things.
That sounds like a twofer or a threefer also. Fantastic. Okay, we're going to make another journey. The travel teams are going to pick up and move again. You don't have to go as a group. You can go as a group, but we want you to go to another table. We're going to go to one more table, and then we'll come together and have a closing reflection. So let's get up and move, and then we'll do the same thing. Advocates, stay put. Look for a table that looks lonely. When they get.
I'm gonna walk. Yeah, I'm gonna walk right now.
Look for a lonely table that doesn't have very many people. A couple over here at the north end. Okay, the first 5 minutes is up, so you should be having now, starting to get feedback, critical friend feedback on the design criteria from your visitors. Okay, one more minute to finish up the feedback that you're getting, and then we'll come back to a discussion. Okay, let's finish up our comments. Ben, if you could be ready with people could be ready with the mics. Okay, we want to bring the group back to heads up. You can stay where you are. I love the energy in the discussion. You guys have been going for a long time today, and you are still energetic. Okay, let's have heads up. Just everybody stay where you are. Stay where you are. Yeah, don't get up. No, stay where you are. Yeah, we're just going to stay right where we are and finish out. Just have a few things to do here. So one is we want to just at this, before we forget it, let's get one advocate this time to share something that you learned, how the design criteria were useful. One advocate. Can be a different advocate. Somebody, anyone want to make a comment? Oh, are we gonna have to pick someone? Any advocate? You guys are spent, right? It has been a long day. Okay. Well, what about travelers? What did you either pick up or what did you learn in your traveling? Here's one here.
So,
wait for the mic.
We're just Xavier. So Xavier.
Oh, that hurt.
City, right? New Orleans.
Close, but not.
So, but this is Dr. Boissier, right? Yes. So I got her name right. That's good. Dr. Boissier was presenting on Xavier, and one of the things that stood out to me was she talked about the fact that faculty who are engaged in the work need to be rewarded.
Mm-hmm.
And so that may mean that in consideration for tenure, that you reward the scholarship of teaching and learning around this engagement. So I thought that was
Do you
really
think you
eye-opening.
could get, I used to chair the tenure committee at my university, and we did get a change in the tenure requirements so that teaching and learning could be you could have a track that was a teaching track rather than a research track. But could you imagine a career aligned track? Would that ever fly?
Well, you just bring the career activities
In alignment with the teaching. Excellent. Okay, and let's get another comment from one of the travelers. Something that you learned, something you're excited about? Anyone? We've got somebody here.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here at the Wiley table, and I was really impressed with their overall plan. But the one major call I wanted to say was that they have a very impressive 1 to 2 week intensive training or orientation for their incoming freshmen. Because the idea is that if they fully indoctrinate their freshmen in the concept and they believe in the pillars, if you will, of CPI, they're able to buy into it very, very deeply and very richly, and then carry that forward from their freshman to the sophomore, junior, so on and so forth. So that was a really impressive call out from our perspective, that they have this very intensive, intentional training to orient them around CPI, give them to buy into it, and also to give them important tools, like an e-portfolio as an example, that they're able to take with them when they have the on-ramp and off-ramp from campus throughout their matriculation.
Great. How, this is for anyone now, how did this process earlier in the afternoon of narrowing down the design criteria for all of our initiatives and kind of coming to agreement across the room about the top 6, how did that help you both winnow down and prioritize what you're going to say for your new ideas and integrating those into your existing plan? How did the design criteria help you? Can we get someone? I know it's late in the day to be asking for big thoughts, but does anyone have a view of that? Did you find them helpful? Yeah, okay, we're getting a lot of head nods. What else could you do with that process, either for this initiative? Somebody mentioned taking it back and having their faculty and having students do that. Do you see other ways that you would use that?
I think taking it back and having the faculty go through that process.
Hang on one sec, wait for
Taking it back and having the faculty go through that process, it would be very helpful, because I think that's the way to get them to buy in, especially those who are a little skeptical about the direction, and trying to see it as so much not moving away from what we do academically, but just tie in the whole issue of preparing them to be targeting toward different kinds of careers that they can direct the focus on. So I think having the faculty get involved is critical. And I think we're going to take it back at Wiley, because that's one of the things that we think would be beneficial for us.
So we did something like that with where we involved faculty, students, and employers in a design criteria and a session like this. And what was fascinating, and I don't know, Don, if you're going to tell this story tonight at dinner, stop me. But we had a situation where a faculty member was saying, when we talked about the career-aligned competencies, a faculty member said, "But that's our job. We do that in the liberal arts. That is what a liberal arts education is. We do that. We give those skills to the students." And the student sitting next to the faculty member in the design session said, "No, you don't." And the employer said, "Well, we need you guys we need to translate. You need to translate between, yes, you might be doing it, but the student doesn't know you're doing it. It's not," and that's where the word intentional, right, comes back. So we found that really interesting. And I was giving a talk on Sunday night to a bunch of college presidents, and the same thing happened again. A college president from a very exclusive college said, "You are stepping on hallowed ground," when we told him about the badging, the 21st Century Skill Badging Initiative. And one of the employers who had been at the design session stood up and said, "You might think that, but your students don't." So I would also encourage you to do this design criteria exercise with students and pressure test as well, and preferably together, because boy, that's faculty development right there, you know. Okay, we are going now to stay where you are, because we're just going to wrap up with tell you the sort of the recap of the tools. You know, as we said, we toggled back and forth all day between working on the design challenge and working on some tools. So yesterday, you know, remember you did the design question, empathy mapping, and journey mapping. Today, today we started out with the research gallery to really sort of kind of internalize what we were seeing and hearing. And I still encourage you, I know you haven't had a chance to go up and look at the themes that came out of that, but that's a really rich board over there. So, you know, I know either tomorrow morning, we'll leave it up, so you may, you know, if you're dead today, that's fine, but maybe tomorrow morning take a look at that. And then the research gallery got us to our design criteria. I know we pre-baked choices for you, but then you culled them down. And the design criteria then led us into prototyping. The prototyping process, often you're starting from scratch. We started with an existing plan, we recognize that, so it wasn't true prototyping, but you can still use the concept to start to get something on paper quickly, start to iterate it, get feedback, assumption test, take it to other people, iterate some more, and then build your plan out from there. So that was the prototyping process we went through today, and assumption testing. Tomorrow, we're going to do some prototype refinements. We're going to do a process that's going to help you pressure test your prototypes against execution. So think about execution, something called service blueprinting. And that's a visual exercise, kind of like journey mapping for behind the scenes is what that's going to be like. So we hope you like that. And we also are making room, we kind of move things around. We're going to make room for a discussion, and if we have time, even a little prototyping session on how can we work together across the schools, and what are the things that we need help on. You know, faculty development was one that came up, data analytics was one that came up. What are some of the areas we might work together on, and could we have a quick structured brainstorming session about, well, okay, well, let's get to another level of specificity about what those might look like. That's a session that we heard you asking for. Hadn't planned on, you know, quite doing it that way originally, but we're going to, you know, design thinking, you have to rapidly prototype even a 3-day innovation summit, right? You've got to be nimble and be able to have the mindset, the growth mindset in place, right, to quickly change.